Welcome, guys, to the Transsexual Plan, your go-to podcast for transgender history. I am your host, Mari, and today, guys, you already know I have a brand new topic for you, and this topic here that I'm actually going to end up talking about actually dates a very long time ago, and I'm actually quite surprised, but not really at the same time. I didn't really pay attention in my history class back when I was in middle school to honestly even remember half the stuff. But I do remember us going over this topic in history class, focusing on the Greek mythology. And Greek mythology actually plays, a key role in the LGBTQ plus community, and perhaps even a slightly nice little portion of role specifically within the transgender community. So today, that's actually what our topic is going to be about. It's going to be about transsexualism in Greek mythology. Of course, transsexualism being the term of transgender now. Back then, the term transgender wasn't coined yet. So transsexualism might be in a couple of aspects of this podcast today. So how about we go ahead and get into it today, guys? I'm going to go into first basically how Greek mythology has paved the way even for, today's modern society of the LGBTQ plus community. So let's get into it. Historically, religion and the LGBTQ plus movements have always clashed, as we all know. And of course, that's because of their various sacred writings warned of wickedness and sin of the world's three most known faiths of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism have battled to embrace and bless gay partnerships. While yes, it is true that, more religious organizations are actually finding peace and tolerance in other sexual orientations these days, religion is still basically viewed as a modest and disciplined action, a thing. And of course, we know it wasn't always like this, of course, aka based upon the topic that we have today. So it is widely assumed that transgender, intersex, and other gender non-conforming people have only lately emerged, and of course, in modern times. And this couldn't be, further from the truth. Obviously, true, the term transgender is relatively new and actually was coined back in 1965. Yet individuals who would consider transgender have actually existed since at least the beginning of recorded history. So, transsexualism is a universal theme that is perhaps as old as the human race, and it is undoubtedly older than written literature as a part of Greek mythology. Before they were written down 3 probably centuries later, the Greek myths existed in oral form for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And the sex change motive, we know, isn't really new to the world today. And we always try to make it seem as though it is. Transsexual metamorphosis is the domain of the gods in mythology, and it is beyond the reach of most humans. Humans, of course, on the other hand, we have the ability to change gender without the assistance of gods. And not only did the gods have the capacity to change people's sex, but witchcraft and demon involvement were also used to perform sex changes on both humans and animals back in the day. An eyewitness story of a girl turned into a boy by the devil in Rome was documented in a book called Hammer Against Witches that functioned as a form of quote-unquote treatment of the incident for over 3 centuries. Even in the chronicles of Roman emperors, there are reports of sex changes. Another example of this, of course, is Dionysus, who was a late addition, as evidenced by his stories. He was the bastard son of Zeus, and his odd gender identity is likewise linked to his second birth, though not in the historic cult, but rather in modern devotion and gender tales. Even while trans individuals frequently dispute that definition of transition, Dionysus the twice-born is also the only Greek god to have a gender identity that doesn't match the one unethically assigned to his body. His femininity coupled with the male physicality was a big part of what made him frightening. Despite the fact that ancient Greek women need, of course, excellent sexual self-control in order to survive, and ancient Greek men cheerfully engaged in sex parties that spoke about rape as if it was a casual pastime, Sexual self-control was regarded as a completely masculine trait. Women, or particularly feminine males, were tormented by overwhelming urge and the failure to control it. Despite his seemingly unrestricted sexuality and numerous partners, Dionysus is one of the very few Greek gods who loves and respects his wife. Yes, he was married, which is likely supposed to emphasize his deviation from normal manhood. Dionysus, as we all know in some sort of way or fashion, is a god for the queer, the feminist, and especially those whose gender does not fall within the cisgender binary. Another example of this, of course, is one of the oldest sex conversion surgeries may have been carried out at Emperor Nero's request. Nero allegedly kicked his pregnant wife in the abdomen, killing her in a fit of wrath. He searched for someone with a face that actually mirrored her, and just based upon the feel of regret. Sporum, a young male ex-slave, came the closest to fulfilling the requirement. The ex-slave was reportedly transformed into a woman by Nero's surgeons, and surprisingly, even after that, the two actually ended up marrying after the procedure. Another example of this being in transsexualism within Greek mythology you might actually know of, which was Hermaphroditus, the two-sex child of Aphrodite and Hermes, aka Venus and Mercury, was depicted in Roman art as a feminine figure with male genitals, and had historically been a representation of gender fluidity. Another example, Francis King Henry III aspired to be recognized as a woman. We got another one, Francois Timeleon has left a clear first-hand account of a powerful cross-gender longing for prosperity. His mother actually would dress him up entirely as a girl, as a child, and at the age of 18, he actually continued to keep doing it. Chevalier Dion actually was one of history's most famous instances of cross-gender behavior. He made his first appearance in women's attire as a pretty-new mistress for Louis XV. In 1755, he actually ended up going on a secret mission in Russia, clothed as his niece, and the king's accredited agent. After King Louis XV's death, he actually lived permanently as a woman, and at the time was a male for 49 years, and then after that was a woman for the last 34. Now look, of course, neither transgenderism nor the communities in which transgender individuals live are fundamentally modern. We can locate our equivalents in a long dead but highly admired ancient cultures with only a little effort. Look, we all need a suitable window in the past to view through them. One such window, of course, is mythology. We can see something of old life and its trials and achievements by actually looking through it. There is transgenderism visible here. This, of course, could go back even to ancient Mediterranean, Indian, Oceanic, and African cultures, where men who adopted women's behaviors and clothes were regarded as shamans, priests, etc., and all of whom were feared and respected for their supernatural abilities. Transsexualism, or the phenomena of a lifelong, widespread cross-gender identification, is not new in our culture or our time. Numerous references from classical mythology, classical history, Renaissance, and even 19th century history, as well as more cultural anthropology sources, indicate that transsexual people have a long history in worldwide prevalence. So people, as I go ahead and wrap up this podcast today, please know that transgender individuals are not new to society. They weren't even new to society back in the 90s. They weren't new to society back in the 80s. Transgender individuals have a long presence. We have always been here. We will continue to be here as long as we need. So, of course, that wraps up this episode today, guys. It was very quick. I know you probably might be mad at me that it was so quick. Of course, I could go back decades of all of the gods and mythologies that allowed us to have transgender individuals be present today, but the list is so long that I feel as though I cannot give you guys more than probably a 10-minute podcast today on this. But until next time, guys, of course, you can meet me here every Sunday with a new episode of the Trans Lesson Plan, your go-to podcast for transgender history. Of course, like I said, my name is Mari. You can follow me on Instagram at mariiiwrld. That is MAR3IWRLD. The Trans Lesson Plan also does have a Instagram as well. You can find that at the Trans Lesson Plan on Instagram too. Of course, just take the time to listen in, share this as many people as you would like to share. And of course, until next Sunday, guys, I'll see you then. Peace.